Good to start? At the back. Is it good morning still? It is. Just 10 minutes short. Okay, good morning, everybody. Can come in. We are here to discuss social capital, how social identities manifest in terms of entry, access, and sustenance in sustainable entrepreneurship and social business. Social capital is effective functioning of social groups through interpersonal relationships, a shared sense of identity, understanding, norms, values, trust, cooperation, and reciprocity. Given that we live in a highly unequal world, these interpersonal relations are often governed by characteristics beyond one's control. While striving for common good, sustainable entrepreneurship must be particularly cognizant of not reinforcing patriarchal power structures that exclude marginalized communities. The objective of this session is to better understand the influence of caste, class, gender in the formation of social networks and discuss the manner in which social capital affects the access, entry, and sustenance of an entrepreneur in sustainable entrepreneurship and social business. We're very happy to have you here. I will start with the introductions. Do we have all the speakers online? We're waiting for their videos. Is it? I will start the introductions with our chair for the day. Dr. T.K. Anandi is the State Gender Advisor for the Government of Kerala. Good morning, ma'am. Really sorry to be starting late. Some of the sessions spilled over. Dr. T.K. Anandi will be chairing the session. Is the audio going through? Anandi, ma'am, can you hear us? I guess I'll just proceed with the introductions anyway. Introducing now our speakers. We have with us Dr. Malini Bhattacharya. Dr. Malini is an Indian politician and a retired professor of English and a former director of School of Women's Studies in Jadavpur University. She's the president of the All India Democratic Women's Association. She was elected twice to the Lok Sabha and is also a member of the Regional Advisory Board of the Film Certification, Bangla Academy, Rajya Lok Sanskriti Parishad, and West Bengal Board of Secondary Education. She's also an author, scholar, translator, and activist in the women's movement, and has been involved in teachers' movements and cultural movements in West Bengal. Good morning, ma'am. Hope you can hear us. Very, very happy to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Very good to see you. More particularly, Anandi, my friend. So nice to see you, although we can't see each other in person.
Very, very happy to have you all present with us, at least through web. We have with us here in person Grace Banu. Grace Banu is a Dalit and transgender activist who is also the first transgender person to be admitted to an engineering college in Tamil Nadu. She's the founder and director of Trans Rights Now Collective. Grace writes extensively on the issues concerning to the transgender community and has authored a book, Thoughts of Trans Woman Grace Banu. She is part of several public interest litigations at the Supreme Court and High Court for the advancement of trans rights. Very, very happy to have you here in person, Grace. We also have with us Dr. Meena T. Pillai. Good morning, ma'am. Meena's 3-year-long academic career began with her doctoral work on American Gothic fiction at the Ohio State University, Columbus in 1995. Much of her subsequent work is located in the intersection of women's studies and cultural studies. Her work has appeared in journals such as the Ariel from Johns Hopkins University Press, South Asian Review, Journal of Creative Communications of SAGE, Bioscope, and Economic and Political Weekly. For the past year, she has been a Fulbright visiting professor at the University of California, where she teaches graduate course on new geographies of women's digital descent. Good morning, ma'am. Hope you can hear us. Very, very happy to have you.
Thank you. Happy to be here with all of you.
Next, we move on to our next speaker, Sabriya Tenbreken. Sabriya knows what it's like to be marginalized. Sabriya developed an intrinsic interest to create ethical social change. She became fully blind at the age of 12 and still pursued Tibetan Central Asian Sciences at Bonn University. In 1998, together with Paul Cronenberg, apologies if I've mispronounced it, started Braille Without Borders, the first school for the blind in Tibet, which offers a vocational training center with business development training, such as medical, massage, agriculture, dairy production, animal husbandry, and the likes. In 2005, she and Paul Graham founded Kantari in Kerala, a leadership training institute for change makers. Hi, Sabriya. Hope you are well. And can you hear us?
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Excellent. I think I'm done with. Over to you, Dr. Anandi ma'am. We can begin with the proceedings.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can, ma'am.
Okay. Should I start?
Yes, ma'am, we can.
Yeah. There's no need of introduction because as we have seen and as she has explained, we have national level think tanks right sitting in front of us as panelists. So I welcome all of them, and I know all the four. And Malli Bhattacharya, for the last so many years, one can say, one of my best comrades for the last 20 years. And Meena Pillai I have met in many of the refresher courses in the college and universities, various universities in Kerala. And of course, Sabriya I met only through Gender Park rather, when we have discussed this issue, when we discussed about this conference. And she's known to me earlier through one of my very close friends who is working in Kantari. And of course, I forgot her name. Grace Banu. Grace Banu is known to me for the last so many years, for the last 4 years, I can say, from the day I have started working for hello? Yes?
Ma'am, we have you back now.
Okay, sorry. I thought she's telling something regarding this. Sorry, I'm in the conference. I'm in the conference, please.
Anandi ma'am, it seems you have joined from 2 devices, so there's some feedback. We are not able to hear you clearly.
Yeah. I have used this.
You're not audible, ma'am.
Not audible.
You are audible now, but I'm not sure have you quit the other device that you have logged in from?
No, I don't.
Sorry, ma'am, we cannot hear you here.
Can you hear me now?
We can, but there's feedback. Whatever you're saying is repeating. So maybe it's because there are 2 devices. Ma'am, can you speak so that we can check if everything's okay? Anandi ma'am, can you hear us? You are on mute, ma'am. Ma'am, can you speak so that we can check? Sorry about. Still not able to hear. You have to unmute, ma'am. You are on mute currently. Not able to hear you. Ma'am, could you try now? Ma'am, the audio on your device is not working. Maybe if you have a pair of earphones, maybe plugging that in would help. She's still on. Ma'am, the technical staff here says that you have not joined with internet audio, which there is a mic symbol on your screen. If you can click on that, you should be able to access. She's Ma'am, while we figure this out, if it's okay with you, can we get the speakers to start addressing the audience? We have a full house here waiting to hear the discussion. We're still not able to hear you at all, ma'am. Ma'am, could you try unmuting? Ma'am, could you speak? Sorry. Sorry, still not able to get. We are trying to get through. Apologies, ma'am. In the interest of time, we can begin with the speakers. Okay, maybe she's coming back. Sorry for the technical difficulties. It is quite challenging to deal with Zoom. I guess we've all been there. We have Grace here in person with us, and I guess we will wait for ma'am to join back with her device. Grace, would you like to address the audience?
Hello, can you hear me? Okay, great. Thank you so much, for inviting me to speak about, this huge conference. And I'm so happy to, to speak about the trans issues and the intersectionalities issues. And yes, we are all new that, the entrepreneur. Being an entrepreneur, I have to say the caste is everywhere. So, entrepreneur, so people who have the privilege, those people only, use that entrepreneur space. But people like us, especially the Dalit, Adivasi, transgender people, and the women or Dalit women, we don't have the privilege to to reach that entrepreneur space. It's like it's the people who have the caste privilege. So those people only occupy all the spaces. And being a trans, it's super difficult. But being a Dalit trans, it's super difficult to, to get the space. So that entrepreneurship space. So if we want to get, we want to become an entrepreneur. So the people who are all, surrounding us, we are having casteist people and the transphobic people. So being a Dalit trans, we have to face two kind of discrimination in the name of gender and caste and class. So we are all, facing this kind of oppression. So we want to become a entrepreneur, but we have to satisfy, to it's not satisfied. It's struggling to get some documents. The basic needs are documents. So the people from the trans community, we don't have the basic documents. So after we got NALSA judgment in Tamil Nadu, we are having a transgender welfare board. So it was formed 2008. So after that, we are getting so many identity cards. But now, after passing that Trans Act, the Poisonous Act, the passed by the BJP government, after that we didn't get any that identity card also. So it's super hard to get the documents, because all the people from the banking sector, they are all asking the documents, the basic documents like Aadhaar card, voter ID, and when we get the Aadhaar card, it's too difficult, and we are linking with our parents, those, but we left out our families, but most of the trans people are having the individual Aadhaar card, but the people who are coming, the newly comers, they are having the Aadhaar card with the families, so they are not ready to give their documents. So it's again it's hard to get the Aadhaar card, because their parents put their phone numbers in that Aadhaar card. So it's again getting difficult, and they're asking in the banking sector, they're asking too many documents. Especially trans people, they're asking too many documents like Aadhaar card, whatever documents we have, including surgery certificate also we are giving to them. So recently, I think you are all aware about that. We in our district, Tuticorin district, we have formed the India's first trans milk producer cooperative society. to supported by our district collectorate and our district minister. So, uh, so it's you know we formed that cooperative society, the legally registered cooperative society, but before that they are asking too many documents to register their cooperative societies. But our district collector, he was he's very trans friendly person, and he only that authorized person to give all the orders to. So that's why we got all the registration certificate and the bank opening the bank account and getting the loan. And we have cattle farm in our district. It's especially for the rural area trans persons. So they are all rural area trans persons, and we are getting 30 houses with the livelihood, this cattle farm. So with the full support, all the supports gave our district collectorate. So all like this, we don't know all the district collectoral, they're all trans friendly. So that administrative people only push to their employees to do very fastly. But they are the decision makers. They should give some relaxation, but they are and in banking sector, as I said, they are asking so many documents, so many in the agreements. In that agreements, they put so many conditions. They change it again and again. So it's super difficult to get the loan, and before that it's super difficult to get the documents. And again, being a Dalit trans, it's super hard difficulties and the discrimination we are facing to get that space, to get the documents and the entrepreneurship space. Why I'm saying this? Because we don't have a visibility space, because our family structures and most of the the rural area Dalit and Adivasi trans persons are facing so many difficulties. And so it's like the visibility space, compare with the other Savarna trans persons, we don't have a privilege to show our identity, because of we are seeing so many caste murders as well as the gender murders are also happening. So we are having so many experiences, and I want to tell one experience. In our district, one of a trans women was a temple priest who was murdered last year. Sorry, 2019. Her murder is happened in the daytime in front of the her temple. That some gundas came and they cut her head and threw her head in front of that temple statue. But this all in murders are happened in the daytime. All the people, the civil society people are watching that, but nobody didn't come to rescue her. So this is the situations we are facing when we show our identity. Being a Dalit, being a Adivasi, trans, it's super difficult to show our identities, because we have being a Dalit and Adivasi, we have to fight within our own community, because most of the trans community people who are the visibly activists, the well-known activists, and the well-known person in the all over the country, they're all upper class Savarna people. So we don't have a privilege to get the space. And if we in our area, they're easily identify our caste because they knew, we are all knew how to their identify our caste, the color, and from which place we are coming from, and what is our village name. So this kind of identities show our caste name. So that's how they find our caste identities, and they are doing so much oppression. So we are also facing the caste discrimination within our own community, and we have to fight within our own trans community, casteist people, and we have to fight with the gender dominant people, and we have to fight with the patriarchy people, and we have to fight with the government, that state machinery. So for us, it's super difficult to to get some public space. So, and that small entrepreneurs, they are all getting some subsidy from their for example SC/ST women and SST people are getting some subsidy from the being some small scale business setup. But being a trans, we don't have a community certificate. We left our home, and we don't have our community certificate. If we want to get a community certificate, we have to provide our family member, one of our family members' community certificate. So that's, I think in Tamil Nadu we have that kind of procedure, and I don't know what about in the Kerala. So it's super difficult to get the community certificate. To we have to go again to our parents, to meet our parents, because they are facing discrimination within our family circle also. And so we don't have a community certificate, so that's why we don't use that subsidies, that caste subsidies. And the consumers. So if we start any entrepreneur or small scale business setup, the consumers are casteist people and the transphobic people. So they are not ready to buy our products from our community people, and especially Dalit trans people and Adivasi trans people who are starting more small scale business, very very small scale, but the Italy shop, and some people are doing the flower, making the flower decorations. And in our district, and I'm from South Tamil Nadu, so that's why I'm mostly attached with the villages, the rural area people. So our rural area trans people are facing, so they are eagerly to do dignified life, to want to live a dignified life. But this society didn't have they don't have a space to utilize those kind of people. And within our own community also, within the queer movement also, they are like it's like they are continuously discriminating us, and they are continuously oppressing us. So it's super hard. And the consumer side, so that's why we started that milk cooperative society. As I said, though we had a discussion with our district collectorate and the minister, and I said we are from the rural area trans persons, we are going to do this business. We are going to do this business, but we don't want to meet our consumers, because they are they are inquiry about our work, who are the persons are doing this kind of work, and they are all doing that kind of unnecessarily researches. So that's why we told to the collectorate, and collector said, okay, immediately we are arranging another way. So I think you are all aware about that Avin. It's like a mother dairy. In Tamil Nadu, we have Avin is a government uh, contractor to get a milk from the uh, milk producers from the village areas, the rural areas people. So they arrange Avin to get the milk, and we are selling the milk to the Avin. So they every day they are coming directly to collect all the milks to their dairy farm. So every month we are getting money. So we don't have a that um, contact with the consumers, and so we have to create a space, safe space for all the people. But most of the time, all the people are saying, we don't have a that fluent English people, and we don't have a we have a educated people, and we have so many qualified people, but we are all doing baking and the sex work and the more, and being a Dalit and Adivasi trans persons, we are not going enter into the sex work because they are seeing color, and people who are look like the most beautiful, they are only stand in the road and they are doing baking. But all the Dalit and Adivasi trans person mostly they are putting in to do the baking. So we want to create a space, and that's why we are choosing another way. And in Tamil Nadu we are having our government conducting the TNBSC examination, Tamil Nadu Public Service Commission examinations. So we are the people who wants to write a government examination from the rural area and especially Dalit Adivasi trans persons, we are training them. We are giving training to write a government examination to get the higher official post, the government official post. And even those kind of work also we are facing discriminations. We don't have reservational rights. So if we in Tamil Nadu, me and four of my friends, we filed the PIL in the Madras High Court, and after that we got the judge. After that, the judgment came. We got male, female, trans person category, and again we filed the petition in the Madras High Court to get the reservational rights. So now in the North South Union of India, as per the 2014 judgment, all the trans persons are considered as a OBC category, and in Tamil Nadu we are all considered as a MBC category, most backward class, as per that judgment. And our government implemented that reservation. But being a Dalit, being a Adivasi, how do we access that OBC category, MBC category reservational? So it's not a social justice. So it's completely injustice. So that's why we are continuously demanding our government to give a separate reservation for the trans persons. That we don't want the vertical reservation. We want the horizontal reservation. That's why all the trans persons to utilize all the spaces, the mainstream spaces. So we are doing. We are educating our community also, and we are educating the cis community, the civil society community, and the patriarchal society also. So I hope we will get very, the safer space, safer visibility space for all the people, not only, that Dalit, Adivasi, disabled people. So we don't have any safe space in this country. So we want a safe space. So we are expecting from you people, the civil society people, you should give your solidarity, because we are ready to, fight with, live, we want to live dignify life, but we don't get any solidarity from the civil society people and the gender dominant people. So we in front of us, we have so many experiences. When the atrocities happen against, you people, our people voice is the first voice to raise that issues. But when the same atrocities happen against us, you people are always keeping the silence. So do remember, your silence is one of the apartheid for us. So break your silence. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Grace, for sharing your experiences and highlighting how important documentation generally is and how it is difficult to secure most of it. We'll go back to Anandi ma'am, just do one check with her. Ma'am, unfortunately, still not able to hear you. I'm sorry, I'm trying my level best to lip read, but not doing a great job. Ma'am, if you can, we will move to the next speaker. In the meanwhile, if you can join from your phone, I guess it would be better. Our technical staff say that, yeah, only from your phone, ma'am, and not your laptop device. So if you can join from your mobile phone, I think it will be better. Thank you so much, ma'am. Over to whoever would like to address. I'm not the chair, so I will not take the decision. All right, Sabria. Over to you.
Okay, can you hear me? Can you hear me well?
Yes, we can. Slightly faint, but we can hear you.
Okay, maybe I come a little bit closer. Can you
This
hear
is
me
much
now?
better, yes.
Okay, good. I try to stay like that.
Yes.
Just please interrupt me if it's not audible anymore. Yeah, thank you very, very much. I try to keep it short. I had been invited to Gender Park a couple of years ago, and I would like to take the whole speech from that point onwards. Last time I spoke about disability as an advantage. Now, people might be confused and thinking like, what does she mean with that? I was talking about the focus on limitations or the embracing of limitations actually can become a blessing, can become an advantage if we look at the disability from a bird's eye perspective and see all the opportunities. Now, yeah, back then I also talked about different examples of blind people, how they see the world, how they see their standpoint in being blind in this world. And I even talked about animals that are born blind. For example, the Ganges dolphins who are naturally blind because the Ganges is so polluted and so muddy that it's much, much better to concentrate on all the other senses, and therefore they are having a big advantage over a lot of other fish with eyes. Actually, just a small anecdote, last year when we had COVID and when the industries had to stop and the Ganges became much less polluted, I think the poor dolphins, they had a big disadvantage because suddenly the fish knew, oh, there's the blind dolphin coming again, and then suddenly the advantage was turned around. So now, I want to confuse you a little bit today. I want to get a step further into looking at social identities and how these social identities could be a blessing or a curse when it comes to tapping into opportunities, such as starting a social entrepreneurship or an entrepreneurship in general. Yeah, first, a little bit about myself. I'm the co-founder and co-director of Kantari. It's a leadership training institute. We are situated here in the south of Trivandrum, in the south of Kerala. And we are training, I would say we're training social visionaries, people from all around the world who come here with the dream to set up an entrepreneurship, to set up maybe a social venture, an initiative, a campaign, and so on. And what is mutual to all these people, or to most of them at least, is that they have overcome adversity. They are part of a marginalized community. Now, people might see from a bird's eye perspective, they might think that they have hardly any ecosystem to thrive. They have hardly any social capital, so to say, to actually become successful. But when we look back to all our graduates, we must see that, yeah, from 226 graduates from 48 different countries, around 60 to 70% are indeed successful, starting and running their entrepreneurships, their ventures, their initiatives, whatever it is. And this despite the fact that they are coming from very, very underprivileged communities. We have former sex workers, we have people who were street children before, we have people who were child soldiers, who have gone through war. We have people who are chased because they have albinism. And we have people with disabilities, a lot of people with disabilities. And we do have a lot of women who have suffered domestic violence. By the way, we also do have transgender. And we have people from the LGBTQ community who are, especially in Africa, very, very much disadvantaged when it comes to starting their own organization or starting an entrepreneurship. And still, they are managing. And there's, of course, the question, why? What makes them thrive? What makes them able to go through all these hurdles? Now, there are a few things that are mutual to all of these Kantaris. We call them Kantaris. By the way, for all of you who are not from Kerala, you might want to know what a Kantari is. A Kantari is a very small but very spicy chili that grows back in the backyards, or that grows wild in the backyards of society. And it is not only spicy, it's also very, very medicinal. So it's not harmful, but not liked by everyone, not everybody's darling, so to say. So we feel that the Kantari is the best symbol for somebody who has fire in the belly and who has the guts and the spice to challenge the status quo. And and when we are looking at these Kantaris, of course, we try to understand why are they successful despite all odds. And then we find 5 major mutual conditions that they all have. The first condition is they have nothing to lose but their dignity. And that means they can risk something. People don't expect too much from them. And therefore, whatever they do, whatever they are achieving to do, and whatever they are going to do, people will be surprised and people will maybe applaud. But we come to the maybe later, a little bit later. The second thing is they don't have the feeling that they have to be everybody's darling. They don't have the urge, the need to please everyone. And that's mainly because they were never a pleaser. They were also not a please to the society. And actually, I see this as an advantage because we learned that we can make a difference much, much more if we stand our ground and if we don't have this necessity to always say yes or to always be a good girl or a good boy. Somebody said, good girls never change the world, right? However, what is also very important, I come to the third point, what is also very important is that they are ethical. By saying they are not a good girl, I don't mean they are unethical. They are just doing something different. They are doing things not as accepted, but very, very important, they are reliable. They are transparent. They are not cheating. They are not excusing things. They are not lying or making false promises. Very, very important. They are on time. Actually, this is something where we really train them on to be on time and to take deadlines very, very seriously. The fourth point, I come to the fourth point, which is very, very important in our eyes, is daring to dream. A lot of us don't know how to dream anymore. We have been in school, we have tried to make big dreams loud, we have talked about our big dreams, and then the teacher says, no, 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 you are not good in math, you cannot do this or you cannot do that. Or the parents even say, no, you are maybe better in becoming an engineer or a doctor, please don't go for theater school. And immediately the dream is destroyed. Now, we learn from very early onwards that we should not dream. Actually, I say we. I'm probably one of the very lucky ones that had parents who taught me how to dream. They had big dreams and they went for it, despite the fact that their parents were very skeptical. But a lot of people, especially here in India, I do see that their parents are nervous when they start to dream big. Their parents try to put them into drawers and say, hey, wait a minute, rather do this or rather do that, because this is, of course, tried out already, tested already. And especially for people from the margins of society, dreaming is not really well seen by anyone, especially by disabled people. People have very clear concepts of what it means to be disabled and what you can do and what you cannot do. Now, this is the fourth thing, daring to dream and going for this dream step by step. Maybe little baby steps, but step by step. The fifth thing, which I feel is very, very important, is looking at your own disabilities, looking at your own limitations, and every one of us has these limitations and disabilities, looking at them not just in an accepting mode, but even in an embracing mode, to really understand, hey, we can not only just live with them, we cannot only just tolerate them, but actually we can use these limitations and use these disadvantages, these so-called disadvantages, as a springboard to even get a level higher. And I think to be able to do this, we also have to understand our social identity. Now, saying this, I want to say that it's not natural. Not everybody knows their social identity. Not everybody is aware of it. And what normally happens is, first of all, you see the limitations. You only see the limitations, and you are stuck with the limitations. And maybe later you find opportunities of belonging to a certain social identity group. And I would like to explain it on my own history. I became blind at the age of 12, so I was living a life as a sighted child before, and I didn't know what it means to be blind. And for the longest time, I didn't want to be blind. I didn't want to understand that I belonged to this group of blind people. For me, blindness was darkness, was isolation, was a very limited life. And at first I saw these limits as a curse. So for example, not being able to ride my bicycle anymore, not being able to recognize friends, not being able to read, of course, or yes, at that time I still was able to read, but with huge magnifying glasses, and it was hurtful. It was making me headache. Slowly but steadily I overcame this. And I saw the opportunities. Okay, now I'm blind, I cannot see very well, but also I'm not so much distracted anymore by Hollywood and Bollywood. I can really focus on what is necessary and what is important. Later, I did understand that my memory worked much, much better. I could memorize much more. I could memorize a huge number of telephone numbers, which I could never do beforehand. Or before I became blind. My communication skills had to become much better. I had to verbalize what I felt. Before I was using my hands and I was using my whole body to verbalize things, but now I could communicate, and I had to communicate, and I had to solve problems, and that was very, very important because, yeah, in a way, blindness made me a problem solver. Now, what I then realized is that the society, because being blind, the society has very clear ideas, what you can do and what you cannot do. And these ideas are rather limiting. I want to, sorry?
Sabri, we have, in the interest of time, 2 minutes to
okay,
close.
good. I want to just explain this, because these limiting factors are done by people who are not disabled or who are not from the same social identity group. They are saying, okay, you are blind, you are only able to become a musician, or you are only able to do massage because your hands are so good, or you are only able to do basket weaving. So, and these are very, very limiting opportunities that we have. And I do feel in this way, a social identity can be a curse. I would like to make one final statement before I hand over to the next speaker. Social change only develops or only processes if we are breaking out of our pigeonholes. If the woman who normally is expected to maybe start a beauty parlor is starting a construction agency, if the banker stops his career as a banker and starts farming and goes into afforestation, if the blind musician says, well, I don't have to be just reduced to making music, but I can be an environmentalist. This is when the society moves on, and this is also when the shock is created, and when the people feel disrupted in their traditions, in their norms, might be feeling even insulted, but on the other hand, they will finally change. And this is what I call an ecosystem of change for entrepreneurial thinking. It's actually change from within. So my final call would be, get out of your pigeonholes. Try to look at your limitations as an opportunity, and don't be afraid to shock the society by doing something unexpected. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sabri. Clearly, dreams are very important for all of us, and especially for the marginalized, to be able to break out of the structures we put them in. Do we have Anandi ma'am? No? I guess the technical difficulties persist. If any of you, Meena ma'am or Mali ma'am, would like to address. Both of you are on mute. Mali ma'am, you're on mute.
I'm perfectly okay with Malnidhi going first. I think she's been waiting for some
time. Ma'am, Mali ma'am, you're on mute, so we are not able to hear you.
Meena.
Yes,
Meena,
yes,
I'm
Malnidhi.
sorry, I didn't see you. Would you like to speak first?
It's up to you, Malnidhi. It's up to you. If you would like to speak first, please go ahead. Otherwise, I can.
Okay. I'll be short.
Yeah,
I'll be
sure.
short.
Thank you.
As short as possible. Many thanks to the Gender Justice Department of the Kerala government and the CEO and the other officials of the Gender Park who are organizing this seminar. It was really most educative to listen to my predecessors who were talking about the richness of their experience. But I would like to go back for a moment to generalities and to what communities can do in this matter and what governments can do in this matter. See, when we talk of social capital in the sense of resources that individuals derive from their immediate social environment, like communicative power, norms and values, skills, educational tools, and support networks, it is generally held that the more privileged sections of society have a larger share of such resources. But this is not uniformly true. In spite of the advantages, inherited advantages enjoyed by certain sections, people in a position of disadvantage on account of factors like class, caste, ethnic background, gender, and religion are not lacking in such resources, at least not unless they have been ousted from their community life. We have been hearing of some of these skills in the first speaker was talking about some of them, cropping, conservation of land, forest and water resources, cattle rearing, knowledge of medicinal plants, making of handicrafts. All these resources are skills, but are associated with specific linguistic resources and value perceptions that are passed down from generation to generation within the community space. Now, when we take a top-down approach, this is not evident, and we do not even recognize the possibility of such resources in people who are sometimes regarded even as backward and ignorant. Even schemes prepared for their benefit seek to mold their labor power according to the exigencies of this top-down development model, ignoring the communicative apparatus, the skills, and the support networks that characterize the social existence of many of these communities. And we know that in modern India, many of our development models have suffered from this lacuna. As a result, there may have been some short-term advantages, some short-term benefits for some sections of these categories, but you see, they have not been sustainable, and it has also led to the exclusion of some of the most deprived among them. Now, I'm not talking merely of preservation of community-based traditionalism. As we all know, our traditional society is very much hierarchical, particularly in relation to caste and gender. And there is often a coincidence of hierarchy of wealth with hierarchy of birth, and women suffer from added disadvantages when they belong to one of the deprived categories. However, the isolationist approach, which merely mystifies such confinement, leads too often to their being reduced to victims of corporate power, which merely uses their
Ma'am, you're not audible. You suddenly went off audio for the
Oh.
last. Now you are. Now you are.
Am I audible now?
Yes, ma'am. Now you are.
So we are talking of social business, and it refers, I think, to entrepreneurship and business, which would not merely benefit the entrepreneur, but would have positive impact on the entire social environment by providing easy access to basic amenities, products, and services needed by people in adjoining areas. So, social business should start from local level enterprises, maybe small and medium ones at the initial stage, tied up with local systems of self-government, which would be in constant consultation with the poorer sections of the local population, those belonging to the Dalit communities, OBCs, tribal people, ethnic and religious minorities, and women. This consultation will not only bring out what kind of amenities, products, and services are needed by the people, but also what natural and human resources are available in the locality, which might be used for the fulfillment of these needs. These consultations with the communities at the grassroots level would serve not only to recognize, but to enhance and improve these resources constantly through the facilitation of exchanges of information, knowledge, and material resources between one community and another, one locality and another. And this inter-community cooperation will help business to grow, even while at the same time, the exclusivism can be fought and diversity may be promoted. In a changing world, deprived communities, particularly religious, ethnic, and linguistic minorities, feel their identities to be endangered and shrink inward, preserving beliefs and customs which merely multiply their isolation. But if their cultural identity is acknowledged and respected in business transactions with others, if they feel that their resources are needed by others, it will be easier for them also to learn from others how they can use their own resources better. Diversity will be a healthy experience if combined with social justice. The role, I think, of the local self-government institutions will be crucial in developing this enabling strategy. So what I'm proposing here is not just a plan for developing entrepreneurial skills in women as a step towards economic betterment of the beneficiaries, but a more holistic outlook which will lead to survival and growth of such business enterprises through the networked well-being of all local communities. Process, of course, will also have to include a plan for the orientation of the entrepreneurs towards the consciousness of the beneficial influence of their social capital on all their neighbors. This will have to start from the school stage, and many local centers will also have to be set up by the panchayats for the facilitation of exchange of information, ideas, and skills. The people themselves will play the roles both of teacher and of student in such centers, and consequent enhancement of people-to-people contact will have the effect of strengthening and augmenting social capital. Sustainable development is only possible when it takes place with people's participation, when none of them are threatened with eviction and loss of livelihood. And increasing networking will give them the self-confidence to participate. The state of Kerala already has some assets which will be invaluable for going ahead with experimentations aimed at sustainable development of livelihood activities and augmentation of social capital. These are the same assets that have helped it to tackle epidemics and natural disasters in a very unique manner. Sometimes it is argued that this has been possible in Kerala because here there's a very high degree of literacy and health consciousness. But we can also look at it from a different angle. The sustained, planned setting up of educational and health infrastructure over the years in the state has given the people who have enjoyed its benefits, the awareness of the value of health and education. So they are also active in sustaining this infrastructure. The experiments proposed here, of course, would have less potential in places where such infrastructural facilities will be less or will be lacking. But of course, it is for the government and the administration, an elected government and an elected panchayat administration to come in here. In an era when bureaucratization and centralization is becoming the order of the day in the country, it is very necessary to maintain intact the power and the vibrancy of the panchayat institutions if we want this kind of an alternative development model. I'm of course reminded of the Kudumbashree scheme, which has maintained its presence in the state of Kerala and is moving in the direction of exploring new areas which may prove to be exemplary. You see, I think that Atmanirbhar Bharat remains a mere slogan if people are not empowered to access the social capital which they themselves generate and possess. As divisions of wealth grow more acute, other forms of divisiveness are likely to proliferate if self-help is thrown out merely as economic sop to targeted groups without ensuring general redistributive justice. This is where the government at the center of the state has a role to play. Public systems of food security, education and health can support such redistribution, not by erasing and neglecting modes of self-support at the grassroots, but by sustaining them. For instance, by encouraging indigenous varieties of crops and edible plants, by reviving skills in land and water conservation and manufacturing skills. But above all, there has to be a decentralization of government allocation at the panchayat level so that participatory management of capital generating activities may become possible. Protection from the so-called microfinance agencies and debt traps set by corporate companies is another necessary condition for retributive justice. So such patterns as the Kudumbashree, similar patterns, in fact, may be useful for future planning. I would say, in my organization, All India Democratic Women's Association, we have made studies of this Kudumbashree phenomenon, and we have also tried to give direction to the self-help groups in the various countries where we are able to intervene towards this pattern. It is only through the recognition of diversity and through opening up of the possibility of interaction and interchange that communities may move from reliance on government support to generating revenue for the government through productive networks of cooperation. I think that in this, self-help, the self-help itself has to be located within a framework of economic and social cooperation rather than one of cutthroat competition. Today, when development seems to be at loggerheads with environmental issues and social injustice is being multiplied through the proliferation of ousties deprived of home and livelihood through mammoth development projects, the time has come for alternative models which will allow people to make best use of their own social capital to better their social environment. And
Excuse me, ma'am.
This
Apologies for interrupting you.
Yes, I'm coming to the end. I only wanted to say that one hopes that this seminar will in some way show us the way to this goal, how people may make best use of their own social capital. I'm very thankful to all of you for including me in this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Apologies for cutting you short. So we would like to have the chair back on the call, and for this to happen, all the participants have to rejoin the call. So request everybody to bear with us for 2 minutes while this happens. Can the speakers hear me?
Yes, I can.
Ma'am, if it is possible for you to rejoin on the, sorry, let me just clarify. Are they required to rejoin on the same link? If all of you will be able to rejoin on the same link, we can bring Anandi ma'am back for the concluding remarks after your address, ma'am. Please bear with us for 2 minutes. The chair needs to close the session, and I don't think any of us will do as good a job. So we'll give them 2 minutes to come back.
Hello.
Yeah, you're
Hello.
audible now.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah. My goodness. Waiting for such a long time and neglecting the phone and the laptop for such a long time, My goodness.
Technology.
Can Yeah. Maliti?
We can hear you
Hello?
as well, ma'am. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Maliti and Sabria? They also can hear me?
I think we're waiting for them to rejoin the call, ma'am. If we can wait for another minute.
Okay, sure. This is one of the lessons we should learn, no? Too much dependency on the tech and instruments.
Yeah, Malidi is back.
Okay. Malidi? Hello?
Meena ma'am, if you are ready, I think we can start the.
Yeah. Am I audible? Can I begin?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
Sure,
you
sure,
are.
sure.
At the outset, I would just like to say that what I'm going to talk about now is more from an academic perspective, because I wanted to unbox, in a certain sense, the idea of social capital and what it means to women in the age of the digital. Just now, Anandi was talking about our so-called, dependency on technology. But anyway, there is no escaping the fact that we are in the digital. For many people like Boju, who actually began talking about the idea of the social capital is a sum of all kinds of resources, actual or virtual, which is a term that I'm taking up in the talk that I'm about to do. So actual or virtual that accrues to an individual or a group by possessing a certain kind of a network, which could be more or less institutionalized relationships of mutual acquaintance and recognition. Now, I begin this paper with 3 conversations that I had at 3 different points of time with different people. The first was with Sister Sudha Varghese on a cold, misty evening in Chandigarh, after our deliberations around women empowerment at the National Consultation on Women in Politics by the Center for Women's Studies, Chandigarh, in February 2019. Now, Sudha Varghese, as all of you know, is a Padma Shri winner, and she works with the most marginalized Musahir women in the Dalit and tribal belts in Bihar. So what she told me was appalling to me from Kerala at that point of time, because I myself grew up in Bihar. She told me that many tribal women who get raped by feudal upper caste landlords in Bihar are still unaware that rape is a punishable offense, adding with a whiff of nostalgia that this would never happen in her home state in Kerala. The second conversation was a WhatsApp chat with a former student I had taught many years back, who now identifies as a gay, cisgender, homosexual man. To my very simple question of which state in India he would want to live in 2020 and why, he replied that being a gay and Dalit, he would like to live in no other place other than in Kerala. To quote him verbatim, "I will not search more, ma'am. It's Kerala where I can live and work for my community and speak for my rights. If I'm in any other state, I'll be in jail for being these identities and for my work." Now, the third set of conversations were with some of my non-Malayali Indian colleagues in the University of California, where I was teaching for some time. Many of them had left India many years ago and knew Kerala only through the numerous narratives around its unique gender, developmental model and exemplary gender development indices. And all of them expressed a desire for Kerala, more as an imagined community, which they argued was the best place in India to be in the present political scenario. Now, what I'm trying to highlight here is how Kerala becomes emblematic of a certain kind of gendered networks and relationships that keep women's empowerment and agency center stage. In no way am I arguing that everything is hunky-dory in Kerala with regard to gender. That's not my argument at all. I'm talking about a certain kind of a desire that we see in all these arguments. And this helps create a different kind of women's social capital. That's the thrust that I'm making. A different kind of women's social capital that is often imbued with a transformative power made possible by the staunch support of various media groups and maybe a more vigilant civil society. Women in Kerala of late, especially post Shabarimala, this is a historical juncture that we would need to take into consideration, have used the affordances of new media and social media to create effective networks that challenge the status quo, forging new solidaristic social communities online. And this, I think, is very, very crucial when we talk about social capital today, because I characterize such networks as social capital, networks of mutual affiliation, working together, ideological affiliations. And I would like to point out the need to acknowledge the value women put on their sense of belonging to such networks. I would also like to stress upon the fact that policy investment is required to sustain such networks, because they are, I think, a step towards gender empowerment. Now, social networks are not the same for men and women. Many theorists, I'm also speaking about it from an academic perspective, many have argued how if men use their social capital to maintain the status quo, women use it often, very often, to subvert the status quo, probably something that they derive from their own marginal relationships with structures of power. So because of the relationships of power, women are caught up in both at the micro and the macro level, networking and collectivities that engender social capital are as important as financial capital in overcoming institutional inequities and structural violences. Now, this is where I want to speak about the turn to, what the turn to the digital meant for many who have been marginalized by virtue of their sex, by virtue of their gender, sexual orientations, complicated, of course, by caste and class. So for thousands of women oppressed by the tyranny of the private sphere, and I'm not talking about a monolithic oppression at all. As I said earlier, all these oppressions are also intersectional. So by the tyranny of the public sphere, cyberspace, I think, has afforded the possibility of a virtual restructuring of space that would at least, I'm not saying completely, but at least partially address some of the political lacunae at the core of the public-private dichotomization, which continues to be so trenchant to women in India. So it seemed to open possibilities for women to wrest a certain kind of an agency in creating counter traditions, something that all of us saw during the Sabarimala debates that were happening. And this was so crucial in the politics of the everyday. So the promise of a new kind of a public space, the new kind of private people engaged in rational, critical debate. Now, earlier in the news channels or the newspapers, we could see how men whom we were used to listening to over and over again could come and make these kinds of speeches or deliberations. But new media affordances, I think, offered the possibility of little stories, of women writing their own stories into the everyday and public spaces. So many women and men were drawn to this space due to its possibilities of, largely ideological critique, as also, transformations that could be effected in some of the earlier notions of what is often called, the bourgeois public sphere. Now, if I just take an example, other than Sabarimala, just take the example of 2012 Delhi gang rape, which did prompt in a large measure the emergence of a digital public sphere, which is something I have argued again and again, that was predicated on the gender anxieties of a new generation of women who had found Facebook and Twitter and blog spheres to be highly useful spaces in writing little histories of everyday life in India, using chat rooms and blogs as spaces for instituting the everyday as an object of inquiry, as well as also a field for political struggle. So there is also, I think, a rising awareness among women of increasing violence and violation of human rights and gender justice in what I would call more traditional public spheres. The kind of romanticized affect, the kind of spiritualization, Partha Chatterjee has been speaking about it for a long time, the affect that is built around the family, and therefore the unproblematic spiritualization of the private sphere that actually prevents the percolation of action or justice or even accountability for that matter into the spaces, into familial spaces, makes it come under severe criticism. So it would be interesting to theorize about cyberspace as one that refuses these fixed dichotomies. I could be sitting in the privacy of my bedroom and still be indulging in very subversive activities online. So the public-private divide, in some sense, has been challenged, creating a third space consciousness with production and reproduction of meanings that are subversive of what I would call the dominant or the hierarchical in the everyday. Now, this would especially offer a kind of a possibility for liberation, for representing bodies. I go back to some things that Grace Banu was trying to say, representing bodies and sexualities that go beyond systematized gender binaries. So many of these spaces like Facebook, Twitter, also and blog spheres also reveal a strategic deployment of emotion. This is where we have to go back to the title of this entire set of deliberations about social capital. As embodied, the possibility of embodied resistances. It could be on the virtual sphere, but at the same time, there is a kind of an embodied resistance that is made possible. So these sites often create groups which partake in coalitional consciousness that construct narratives and performances that are geared towards more just, more gender just, egalitarian social relationships that transcend, many of the binaries, or that question the ideological remnants of, earlier unnatural divisions. But the problem there is, this is where I think policies should be coming in. This is where I think, this webinar series, or this entire set of deliberations might be able to offer a set of, policy, a draft maybe, towards why it is all the more important we do it today. Because these gendered network public also means increased surveillances and online and physical vigilant repression tactics. So which is something that all of us women, transgenders, we have all experienced in different levels at different points in our lives. An increasingly networked world allows participation in a virtual public sphere that continues to be dominated by patriarchal structures. So you see how many of the offline violences have also crept into online spaces. And what we thought could flatten out the hierarchies have actually often ended up, in creating more entrenched hierarchies. So participation is equally structured along offline hierarchies such as class and gender, and caste, of course, and consequently excludes already marginalized groups. So this is something that we really, really need to maybe, work on in order to create a more impartial or maybe a more gendered awareness of what the digital sphere is could do. So even as we speak of the increase in women's social capital in the digital age, the potential for democratization in the cyber world, the way it has opened up mobilities and freedom to reinvent, these are all crucial for, I'm not an entrepreneur, but I think these are all crucial for any entrepreneur. To reinvent identities, to create worlds free from the hierarchies of embodied realities. It can also serve to undermine the working of a digital private sphere through violence and power, which is again, recently in Kerala, a few months back, we saw how even very privileged women had to take law into their hands because of the kind of misogynist, comments and videos that are often placed online. Somebody talking about why the feminists in Kerala do not wear underwear. These kinds of videos, there is a certain kind of a market for misogyny which needs countered, which needs to be, stopped, and maybe, that is where government policies become so important. So we could talk about a masculinity in crisis, but I think it is much more complex and implicated in structures of power than that. So thus all attempts to engender a radical critique of existing, kinds of social imaginations of nation and communities, and to create counter publics, to create spaces of dissent, I understand are also fraught by new kinds of surveillances, new kinds of cyber fascism, which, as I said again, again and again, I keep on saying, all of us have underwent all these kinds of fascist bullying at different points in time. So the offer of a virtual mobility for women as entrepreneurs traveling out of traditional societies is at the same time undermined by equally dispersed and diffused technologies of power that seeks to regress, dissent, control sexuality, and surveil and regulate daily lives. So women as cyber subjects, and this I think is very, very crucial, even as we speak of, gender and entrepreneurship. As cyber subjects, earlier somebody spoke about in the other session about how a woman entrepreneur was finally forced to ask her husband to make a presentation because she felt this is, so this kind of a mindset, maybe it's time we need to critique it, at least in the digital terrain. And we also know how in this terrain we are being surveilled by everybody, the cyber disciplinary network, which seeks to keep ideal notions around femininity and masculinity in place, So this is not even the panopticon. As I keep on saying, it has become an omniopticon. Everybody is surveilling everybody else. And this creates a network internet circuit with a feeling of a massification of power, which needs to be challenged as we enter this nascent public sphere. That is what I feel. So in a network society where the idea of space and time, along with economy and governance, have undergone paradigm shifts, so much so that the enjoyment of all fundamental rights seem linked to information technologies, internet access, should be a basic human right as far as women or anybody else from marginalized sections are concerned. So internet access is a basic human right. Communication technologies have become crucial to marginalized people all around the world in the need to express opinion and the right to freedom of speech, as also in exercising other fundamental rights, especially given the slow ousting of traditional media by new media. So just as the underprivileged and the dispossessed have a right to public spaces, women and transgenders and others marginalized by virtue of their sexuality or gender do have a right to digital spaces, information highways and networks, and participation in e-governance, which are today as much linked to lives as to livelihoods, within which ideally, within what should ideally be a digital democracy. This is something that I really would want to put, forward in what I'm arguing. So I do not want to go into the threat that the cyber spaces often pose to women, the kind of gender violences. I have spoken about it again and again, the kind of cyber lynching, slut shaming that happens online all the time. But then again, the need for more stringent measures.
We seem to have lost her. Can we have the speakers up on screen? Give us a second, please.
I think it is all the more traumatic about online gender violence during the time of the pandemic, as a manner in which often the perpetrators of such violence cleverly shift the blame to the target by drawing unwarranted attention to her, and thereby, in the absence of adequate cyber laws or redressal mechanisms, by carefully deflecting the onus from the public sphere to the private sphere. So it suddenly becomes the onus is on the private, members, immediate family, in order to keep this in check. It is a target who is often pushed into cyber quarantine or self-censoring. So I think I'm speaking about all this because the pandemic has magnified the inequalities to glaring proportions. And in the absence of a social and institutional solution to the problem of e-misogyny, which any entrepreneur today will have to face, given he or she or they are women or transgenders, given the fact of how inequitable cyber laws are and how redressal mechanisms fail during times of crisis, such as women in cyberspaces. As ordinary women trying to write their stories, to talk against injustices, as entrepreneurs, the right to freedom, the right to dignity and autonomy needs to be upheld now more so than ever. So,
what's wrong with the sound? Audio gone? Can't hear you.
We can't hear her either, ma'am. Just give us a second.
What's wrong?
Now it's okay, I think, ma'am.
I can't hear. Meena Pillai? Meena? Are you there? I can see only Sabriya.
I think there's a connection issue on Meena ma'am's end.
I see. So it's already time, no?
It seems, yes, ma'am, we have overshot thanks to the technical difficulties. If you would like to take over.
Should I consolidate?
Yeah, please do.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Though I couldn't hear you, I was listening to you all. Though you couldn't hear me, I was listening to all of you. And see, only during the time of Sabriya's presentation, I was just meddling with the phone and, earphone and all those things. And I missed a bit. Otherwise, the TG issues, which was explained by, forgot her name, and there's no time to see her name and all that. Yeah, Grace Banu. Grace Banu is the first person who has presented, and she has put forward some valid questions like the intervention of community, and also in Tamil Nadu how this OBC has been replaced by MBC, and OBC is there, not replaced, but still they have introduced MBC also. So there in Kerala we have touched wood, and luckily we don't have such issues like. Even while giving the identity cards, we insisted that self-assigned sex should be given to them. So that way, I think Kerala TG cell and TG policy, thanks to Geeta Gopal, has been made very progressive that way. So, but what I feel is there should be some uniformity all over the states. National level uniformity must be there while giving such reservations, the rules and regulations regarding reservations, the format in the reservation. Everywhere, there should be some uniformity so that, such problems can be avoided. And Sabriya, as I told you, I was listening to the last part of it only. I'm so sorry. I really missed you.
Yeah, okay.
I really missed your talk. But towards the end, I was listening to the issues you faced, vividly you were explaining the problems you faced as challenged person. So only that much I could hear. So sorry, Sadhya. And when I got back the connections and all that, Meena Pillai was good enough to discuss about, sorry, Maldives also. A little bit only I could hear, and also I could, what I could gain was, the need for, she has concentrated more on the meaning of social capital, the very depth of the social capital, that is the interactions and the network, etc., which she was harping upon the essence of group. And she was explaining about IDWA and, they have made, and she was explaining about Kudumbasri and how Kudumbasri has become a model, and, throughout India, we have introduced SHGs, and, how they were depending upon us, Kerala. When women could come and join hands with Gender Park, because we have so many other southern states. We have Karnataka, we have Tamil Nadu, we have Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, but why Kerala? Because very many reasons Meena Pillai has put forward. She has listed a group of examples also. So I agree with Meena Pillai also. It is Bourdieu, no doubt. Bourdieu is the person, of course, theoretically speaking, Bourdieu is the person who has introduced the word. He has taken it from Marx, who has given the word capital, and he has extended. Bourdieu always used to do extensions and, more readings and more studies from Marx. So he has used the same words, practice has been, he has used it as praxis, life world. That also all these words are coined by Bourdieu, and Bourdieu is the person who has coined the word social capital also, where he has taken the word social capital basically because, from Marx, as I said, Marx has delineated the difference between individual capital and social capital, and he has taken it from that social capital, because Marx has clearly stated that individual capital is just an investment which is debt. Whereas social capital has got social networks, it serves in the society, it has got a lot of other power. It is social in nature. So from that, he has taken this word, social capital. Thanks a lot for reminding me of Bourdieu, Meena. And she was talking about the tyranny of public sphere. There is tyranny of private sphere also. We have seen it in the during lockdown period. How much of domestic violence cases we had to face here, we had to handle here, So it is not the tyranny of public sphere alone, it is the tyranny of private sphere too. And cyberspace, of course. I remind Meena about Donna Haraway's cyborg. She has coined a word cyborg because half human and half cyber. And cyborg, Donna Haraway has given a manifesto, cyborg manifesto has been written by her, and where she says towards the end, they are handling a case of rape in the cyborg area. In the cyberspace, because even the cyberspace is not free from domestic violence, abuse, sexual abuse, etc. So far as you have male, female, and transgender people living there. So cyborg is also, though it's an imaginary word, imaginary person, but still, cyborgs are male cyborgs, female cyborgs, and transgender cyborgs, and there also you are not free from any of these issues. Of course, there is a need for a law, no doubt about it, and that law, cyber law, should be formed from the center, because it's a central law. We cannot do anything about it. States cannot do anything about it. But still, in Kerala, after the incident which she has explained, we are trying out to find out some rules and regulations which we can keep from the cyber abusers. That we are trying out. And pressure should come from all the women's organization, Malnidi, from IDWA and other organization. Pressure should come to the center to formulate a law, separate law for Cyber Act, and we should see to it that it is formed. We have to. There is no other escape at all. And regarding what she was telling is about space, time, and economy, internet access should be the right. Very good. That should be the basic right, no doubt about it. But things like what had happened to me today should not happen. Because I always used to say, if one fine morning, if Microsoft is deciding to withdraw from all these things, they are closing down, what will happen to our files? What will happen to our research papers? What will happen to our books? What will happen to the books we have downloaded through Kindle? And what will happen to our offices? All our data will be losing. So I'm always under the fear that, one day, one fine morning, it may happen. So we have to have, when we say about internet access as a basic woman's right, human right and women's right, we should keep that also in mind. And also, it's of course a citizen democracy and the cultural capital. She was talking about cultural capital also. Cultural capital cannot escape, Meena, because cultural capital also is completely dominated by male. Cultural capital is highly patriarchal. So far as you have gender equality in the cultural capital, you cannot just escape from it. So one has to be very careful even while dealing with even whether cultural capital or cyberspace. One has to be careful. So the basic thing is the patriarchy that has to be changed. Equality that should be the norm. So whether it is to develop a social capital, whether to develop cultural capital or human capital, the basic thing is eradication of patriarchy and also fight for gender equality. That should be our motto. And sorry that I could hear only this much, and the time is running, and I know that all of you must be feeling hungry, those who are staying there. Goodbye and thanks a lot. Whatever material you can, please send me so that I can consolidate and send to me or whoever is making the policy. Thank you very much. Sorry that I couldn't hear Sabria. Sabria, only I can see you now. Hi, Sabria. Sorry, bye. Okay,
thank you so much, ma'am. If there are any audience questions, we will quickly
and thanks a lot for ICGE people for giving me another connection. You have troubled a lot. I don't know what happened.
Sorry about the technical difficulties,
yeah,
ma'am.
It's okay, no problem.
If there are no audience questions, we'll just quickly ask. Okay, I think everybody is ready for lunch and has a hungry tummy. We can hear the rumbling. Thank you so much for taking us through this discussion. Very, very happy to have you here. Thank you on behalf of Gender Park.
Okay, thank you for giving me.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Grace, since you're here in person, we request you to stay back for just one moment, a token of appreciation from our side to you for making it here. Can we have a huge round of applause for Grace, please? Thank you, Grace. Thank you, everybody. Lunch is now served.